So here we have the rebuild kit. So it's time to get the head, meter and head rebuilt with the Salvox kit and some master injector mini filters. So this is the fuel metering body with its seals on and filter gauze with the in-house modified fuel pin. So this is the fuel body mounted inside, and the springs and spring seats sat over the fuel nozzles. So what we've got here is the sealing. So what I've used is Whale Seal, which is probably one of the better sealing compounds used. Only a light smearing over there just to make sure we have full penetration of sealant. And the next part is the lower spring seats, which locate the springs and then back onto the diaphragm, which sits the next part. Now we have the all-important diaphragm. Now these diaphragms are made with obviously a different kind of rubber these days, so they're more resistant to the chemicals that are in fuels nowadays. So that is going to just put on there nice and tight and touched on so it seals. And the unit bolted together, put this together nice and gently so you don't misalign anything. These are the master injector, tiny injectors which go inside all of the 4 injector ports. Now these are very small, quite fiddly put in there, but don't require a lot of force to get them to mount in. And the underside, all the hex Torx nuts all torqued and tight down, fuel pill installed, and the fuel body mounting bolt. Clean and dry, masked up, ready for its first few coats of primer. This was the second coat of primer. It's gone on nicely again. First coat was a nice dusting, second coat good and thick. And this is a satin black, 2 coats of satin black. This is just the paint wet, and then we'll follow on with 2 coats of clear coat to make it look lovely and shiny and protected. Perfect. So as we can see, that is the final painting and sticker removal of the meter and head rebuild. So it's all been rebuilt. The pressure one I left out a minute just to get the paint right. Then I've tightened that up, and once I nipped it up I then clear coated it. So it's had 2 coats of primer, 2 coats of satin black, and then 2 coats of clear lacquer. So that is looking good. Again, I've locked these up because I'll need to put the new seals in there. I've got new bolts coming for all of these. So those 3, that one and all of those. So what I can do now is put that in the car in its rough position, put some of the lines on. I can put them in the pieces. I can do these ones tight, a couple of others tight, but there's 2 I'm going to leave loose because I don't want to do it all tight and have to undo them again when I do the pressure testing. But it's come out really good. Happy with that. Looking lovely. So I'm going to pop that in position now. So that's the meter and head partially bolted back on just to secure it, and the lines on and in the place they should be. Nothing's done up tight because obviously I've got new bolts coming and stuff. So we've got the your return to tank, your main feed, the 2 for the warmth regulators, control pressure. That's again the control pressure, then your 4 main fuel lines. So once I get the bolts for those, I can do all the fuel lines up tight, the fuel in and return to tank tight, and one of the warmth regulator box can go tight. 2 of them need to stay loose because when it comes to testing the fuel system, make sure the injectors are all sticking out the same amount of fuel before I even start the car. I'll need to get pressure kit on there, which is literally a gauge connected between that pipe and either that one or that one. You run the pressure up on the pump, and then on the gauge you'll see should be about 5 bar, and then there'll be a tap on it. You should turn the tap off. You'll then see the control pressure line, which should be about 3 bar or something like that, but we'll do that later down the line. Hopefully the system pressure should be fine, so you shouldn't need to play with that. So that's that in there. You may have noticed my previous videos, that's my air flap, which is slightly larger than your standard ones. Now this is what I've done in-house, which sort of mimics what the VW Motorsport ones would have been, which are a lot larger at the top. What I've also done, again, thinking outside the box, I've got more fuel going in, I want more air going in, what can I do, what can I try? If it doesn't work, I can always go revert back to a standard. But that plate, your main air plate, bottom one, standard ones are an 80mm plate. That is an 88mm plate. So I've made my own plate, enlarged that. I have bored out or machined out the lowest level to meet that plate. We've then got just to that line there, it widens up slightly and then goes up, because on the standard ones there's normally 3 angles. So you've got sort of idle region, angles a bit more mid-range, and then you've got full throttle. So that marries up with the fuel. So that's that. That took a lot of time doing that. Hopefully that'll work out with the fuel in once she's all running up. But there we go. So that's that side done. Thought it was about time I do something with the sunroof. So you'll see the picture before this, where it's a bit rusty and minging. This had a lot of problems reacting with paint putting on it, so I just put it to the side, got on the rest of the car. I've since put paint stripper on it to get everything off there. I've left it for a while, which probably wasn't the best on bare metal, but I've just gone over it nice and solidly with a 320 grit sandpaper all around the edges, as good as I can, all over the top. And I'm just going to start building up a good layer of primer on this. So, sunroof. As you can see from the pictures I've put up, we have had to do a little bit more repair on the sunroof. Well, going back from that, I left it in the car, stripped, because it kept corroding, not corroding, kept reacting whatever I put in it. So I just stripped the whole lot down, paint stripper, right down. I did leave it somewhere else too long, bit of corrosion built up, so rubbed it flat again, cleaned it all off, done a bit of flat and primer work on it, a couple of filler jobs, rubbed that all down. That's been rubbed down again. It's had three coats of primer on it. We have got some Atlas Grey aerosol tin up for that, so that is, bar a very light rub down and wipe down, that is ready for paint. So we'll come back to that when the paint turns up. And now this little bugger. Now this is a hall sensor, or whatever you want to call it, pulse sensor. It sits inside the distributor. Now I've taken the distributor apart, changed the oil seal in it, because there is an oil seal that sits below there. So once the oil seal's been changed, I thought I'll just buy one of these off the shelf. There shouldn't be too much. You can get your sort of Euro car parts kind of quality types for about 40 quid maybe, but on the ignition bit I'd rather keep it a genuine Bosch high quality part. They're about 200 quid. Now the only thing's wrong with this is the plug had snapped off. It was working because the engine was running beforehand, so I've got no issues with it currently. It works, it's tested, it's working. So what we're going to do is, I've glued that clip back on there. I'll leave that to set. So once that's set, I can put it all back together, give it a clean up, make sure this is nice and tight, sits on there, and then probably rebuild the distributor, put that back on the car, and then that should be that working. Worst case, if I have to buy a new one, I have to buy a new one, but I'd rather keep, because that's a genuine Bosch. As I said, it was working, I'd rather just reuse that if I can. So that's all up to today. So I've got a few more bits en route, so when the paint comes, I can slap some paint in there. I've got clear coat ready for it. I am just doing that aerosol. I'm not messing on the compressor because it's a nightmare, and I want to show that you can still get a very good finish using aerosol cans, and good bit of polishing and wet sanding. So there we go. So thanks for all the subscribers, nearly at 500, which is pretty crazy. Any questions, as normal, stick them in the comments. See you next time.